Just recently, I finally played and beat Dark Souls. Dark Souls Remastered, specifically. And I made so many mistakes, but it very much changed my opinion of Souls and Souls-like games. I was in an interesting position. I was growing up, there was no plans to play this game, and people in high school were always talking about how this was the hardest game ever made and how it was so difficult to beat, but I didn't know anything about it. I was playing Modern Warfare 2, Halo 3, like Need for Speed, nothing serious. I did log a gross amount of hours into Oblivion, though. So, a couple months ago, I was in a weird spot, right? I knew very little about the game, that other than it was supposed to be difficult, kind of. I think I've probably seen some footage pretty passively, but I didn't know anything about bosses, I didn't know the special tricks, I didn't know any of the secrets. I just know that parrying and rolling was the lifeblood of the game. Bring it out. Yeah, checks out. Yeah, checks out. Checks out. Wait, hold on. Take two. Give me a second. Where you going, homie? Yep. Got him. I stream this game live on Twitch, and I made it very clear to people who were coming in and my chat that I wanted no spoilers. I might ask for some help with certain things, but I didn't want big things to be spoiled for me. I wanted a very raw and pure experience. For the most part, that's what I got. I had somebody come in and tell me to kill Knight Lawtrick, I think that's how you say his name, and they just were pretty horrible in spoiling that. But that's okay. I mean, one person out of everybody who stopped by, I'm pretty happy with that. But also that guy that spoiled it, fuck you. I had no idea about the stats. I kind of read the stats, but I did not understand the importance of the inspection of stats and weapons and the lore and everything else. I didn't understand any of that. So when I was picking weapons in the classes, I picked the Thief, and I ended up picking the Old Witch's Ring because I didn't know what it did, and I thought it was cool to uncover another story arc within the game because the Witch's Ring didn't do anything up front, and I was interested in that. I ended up picking up the dagger, and I fell into the trap of going into a dex build based around the dagger because I thought the bleed effect was really cool, but I did not understand that some bleed effects didn't apply to all bosses and or enemies, and it led to some difficult times within the game. Starting in, I was just a total noob, you know, I was a total idiot running around doing dumb things. I couldn't parry for the life of me, but experiencing the game was incredible. This game has such a bad rep from the public who has never played it. There are so many things this game, it just pushes you to figure things out. There are hidden trails of breadcrumbs that will open new areas, some hidden walls behind hidden walls behind hidden walls to go down into the glorious Ash Lake and find this Hydra jumping over you, immersing, and then walking along and finding a giant dragon who's like, hey, join my covenant, and you go, hey, fuck yeah, you're a cool dragon, I'm joining your covenant. I mean, the game is wild. There's so many characters that you can discover and interact with, and chasing down their stories was cool. I didn't get to experience most of them. The only story that I fully experienced was Big Hat Logan, and somebody in my chat told me to progress the story at some point I had to buy all of his items. Which, that part was fine because, you know, I asked about it and I was wondering, was this really the last part? That's okay. The biggest thing about this game that I think a lot of people will talk down about it is how unfair Dark Souls is and how it's just the most punishing game and blah, 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 blah. And I do agree it is a punishing game, but it's punishing when you're rushing through it. And I would argue that Dark Souls is quite fair. Now, I didn't interact with the PvP side of things, so I can't speak to that, but it felt like when I walked into an area, I felt overwhelmed, but as soon as I started to process move sets from enemies, how I can dash around them and maybe backstab them or parry into a riposte or something, it felt like the areas opened up so much. The only area that I truly did not enjoy was Tomb of Giants. I think that was the area that got to me the most, and that one was a bit oppressive for me. Just the beginning part, quite. I would probably say my favorite area was Anne Orlando, because no matter what you did in Anne Orlando, it felt like there was another thing you were missing around the next turn, right? You walk in and you enter, in this giant statue is behind these two giant guards of Ornstein, and on the other side is Smo. And then you find a fireplace in the middle with this very lovely firekeeper with lovely armor, that armor is so sweet. And then you go down the steps, and then you gotta climb up through the rafters of the chapel, and those fucking dudes throwing fucking knives at you so they kill you. Screw those guys. It just felt like nothing ever made complete sense. It was cool to find rings about Lord Gwyn's hidden son, and then the history of his other children, Gwyndolin and Guinevere. And then you find out that Guinevere is kind of fake, and then you find out that Gwyndolin was raised as a female, and then you find out that if you put the rings on at the same time or something in the downstairs, the path to Gwyndolin is opened. And oh my gosh, it was very overwhelming in a good way. I think the biggest problem I had within Anne Orlando was that painting. I had to get a hint or two about the painting, because there is no way you walk up to a painting and interact with it and it says contraption does not move or something of that nature, and not have many questions, right? So I had somebody explain things to me to a degree of going back to the beginning. That's all I was told, and I went back to the Burg and found the peculiar doll, which mentioned something about the painting within the description, which was very cool. I think my favorite part that I figured out was when you are entering the Anne Orlando archives, there's that giant crystal that's just like kind of passively standing there. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. And he's got more health than other crystals, so that's also kind of weird, right? And then I found that golden crystal, which had the lady, which ties it to the medallion, which the medallion ties it to the lady, and then you go back and forth and back and forth, and then it's just a rabbit hole of experiencing the DLC as it is. I think another thing about the game which made it so beautiful was how connected it was. Pretty directly afterwards, I started playing Hollow Knight, which, oh my gosh, I cannot recommend that game enough. Just a beautiful Megalovania that is just incredible. But the thing that Hollow Knight and Dark Souls do that I really enjoy is they're so connected. When you are in Dark Souls, you can open a door going from the Undead Burg into the Crystal Forest, and then from the Crystal Forest, you're climbing up behind the waterfall, and then you're over there. All of the areas are so intertwined. It's the same thing in Hollow Knight. I mean, you're running around, find a little secret, and then boom, that secret is connected from the green path into I don't really remember the zones right now, but it's just an incredible experience. And if you guys have not played Hollow Knight, please go play that game. So fun. The biggest thing in Dark Souls that people talk about the most is probably bosses, right? Or those the spinning death skeletons of pain. Those guys talked about a lot. But probably the bosses. The boss experience is what Dark Souls is kind of inherently built around. Not so much a Shadow of the Colossus, where that's the whole thing of like finding the bosses and then killing them, but the boss experience is vital within Dark Souls. And I'm very, very, very happy to say I enjoyed them. I enjoyed the bosses. I got a little bit irked at Quelaag and Gargoyles and Iron Giant, Iron Golem, Iron Guardian, whatever his name is, Vin Diesel, whatever, because they were resistant to bleed, or at least they were resistant to bleed to me in using my dagger. Maybe they're not, but I don't really know. I haven't looked anything up. But those three probably gave me the most trouble. but everything else was so fun. You would go in, you would learn the move sets, you would learn when to dash, when you could get more than one attack in, when you should be rolling, when you should be moving all around. It was just an absolute blast. Some of the bosses were very difficult. I will say, like Gravelord Nito, he has that audio cue for when he shoves his sword into the ground and that spike pops up. I cannot get that down. So I thought it was early in the Scream. I thought it was late in the Scream. It's some point, I just haven't figured it out. I just eventually murdered him dead as quick as possible. I actually stumbled into what was a pretty good build. I found a Silver Knight straight sword off of a Silver Knight in Anor Londo. I was pretty much wearing the gold covetous serpent ring the entire time. Not that I understood drop rates or anything, because I was hollow for the entire run. I still don't understand humanity, but I haven't really looked it up. I ended up getting that Silver Knight straight sword, and I found Power Within in Blighttown, I believe it was. And the combo of those two were just insane. Once you maxed out that Silver Knight straight sword with Twinkling Titanite, and then you popped your Power Within, I mean, you just ran bosses. I ended up doing the Four Kings fight. I think that took me 2 tries. The first try, I was just trying to figure things out. And the second try, I just killed the king so fast that I had to wait for another king to spawn. So I don't really know what happened there, but it was okay. Maybe I was overleveled, but my chat kept telling me I wasn't. So I'm pretty happy about it. The only other boss that really gave me an issue was Kalameet. Kalameet was so difficult for me. I couldn't not ever get Kalameet's moves down. Now, I probably just got very lucky in my kill of Kalameet, but that's okay. I cannot recommend it enough, this game. Just the entire experience that you have going through it all is just a total blast. So I finally tried to tie up as many loose ends as possible. I wandered into the kiln of the first flame, and I did go back to my roots eventually of putting on the dagger, and I put on Logan's big hat and a target shield, and I walked into Gwyn. I did not do that at first. I figured out you could parry him, and then I was like, well, I gotta do this with style. And if you are able to parry that jumping attack he does as soon as you enter, man, you feel so sweet. I will say the last boss was probably one of my least favorites because it was overly simple. But that in combination with how incredible the music of Gwyn was, I would still rate it a positive experience. Dark Souls was really an amazing journey. In the age of multiplayer games being the focal point for so many people, it was a real breath of fresh air to go back and play something that focuses on a single player experience and the mastery of a single player game. I'll probably go and complete the other Souls games. This one was incredible. I still think about it. I'm enjoying my experience at Hollow Knight and seeing the comparisons, and excited to experience other Souls-like games. But I really wonder what other illusionary walls I missed in Dark Souls 1, and what other orange soapstone messages were left that may have led me to my deaths. And I wonder if I missed any other great chests like the one in Anor Londo. You know, at this point, I really want to thank the people who pushed me to play this game, because I was very cautious and not optimistic about it. And they helped me explore through every single bit, gave me small hints, they laughed at me, and they're happy how much I enjoyed it. So Techno, you're a real homie, man.